Hello, ladies. That's Val Venis, Sean Morley in real life, the adult film star who turned pro wrestler and feuded with whoever came his way. God, his ego was too big, and that's what everyone hated about him. From Dustin to Ken, here are all the big reasons why wrestlers hated working with Val. But before the real juice, here is a quick background check. Sean Morley's path to becoming Val Venis actually started years earlier in Oakville, Ontario, Canada, where he was born in 1971. He trained under names like The Missing Link, Jason Robertson, Dory Funk Jr., and Tom Pritchard, so he had a pretty strong wrestling education before he even debuted in the mid-90s. Before WWE, he wrestled all over the world under different names like Scott Borders, Sean Morgan, Steel, and El Steel. He spent time in All Japan Pro Wrestling, learning the hard-hitting Japanese style, and in Mexico's CMLL, where he actually learned conversational Spanish and won the CMLL World Heavyweight Championship in 1997. That title win proved he could really wrestle and wasn't just a guy who needed a flashy gimmick to get noticed. When WWE signed him in 1998, the idea for his character came from writer Vince Russo, who thought Morley looked like an adult star. Vince McMahon personally pitched it to him, saying they could do something else if he didn't like the idea. At first, Morley thought it would just be a Hollywood actor gimmick, but when he found out it would be an adult film star, he leaned into it completely. WWE started airing vignettes on Raw in March of 1998, showing his character's life outside the ring, complete with a cameo from real-life adult star Jenna Jameson. By the time he wrestled his first match on May 18, 1998, fans already knew who he was supposed to be. His entrance towel drop and "Hello, ladies" quickly became some of the most memorable parts of the show. The big problem with his character was that it was so specific and outrageous that it was hard to repackage him as a serious main event wrestler. Once you've been introduced to the audience as an adult star, it's not easy to suddenly convince them you're a top championship threat. But above this, Val was totally hated for his feuds. When people talk about wrestlers that other wrestlers didn't like working with, Val Venis comes up a lot. And the thing is, it's not because he was dangerous in the ring or anything like that. It's a mix of a few things. How he acted backstage, the limits of his gimmick, and the stuff he's done and said since leaving wrestling. All of that together made him someone a lot of people didn't enjoy being around. In the locker room, he had a reputation. People describe him as arrogant, full of himself, or just hard to be around. In wrestling, how you get along with people behind the scenes matters a lot. You can be a good wrestler, but if you rub people the wrong way, it sticks. Later in his career, he even admitted he had lost passion for wrestling. In one interview, he said that during a match in TNA with Christopher Daniels, he didn't care about the outcome and thought Daniels should have won. When someone says something like that, it's not hard to imagine how that might feel for the people still giving it their all every night. If you're in a locker room full of guys busting themselves in the ring, having someone there who is just going through the motions doesn't exactly earn respect. Even after he retired, his personality stayed pretty abrasive. There are videos of him arguing with people, getting confrontational, just generally looking for a fight. And while that's all after his time in WWE, it adds to how people see him. When it comes to his actual wrestling, some people think he was underrated. Others think he was just decent and nothing special. The big issue was his gimmick. In 1998, during the Attitude Era, WWE gave him the role of an adult star character. It worked for the time. He had the "Hello, ladies" catchphrase, the towel, the comedy segments. Fans reacted to it, but it also came with a limit. Nobody was going to believe that character could beat The Rock or Stone Cold or The Undertaker for the world title. That meant he was stuck in the midcard. Even if he had the skills, his character made it impossible to move up higher. WWE tried to change things. They put him in Right to Censor. They made him Eric Bischoff's chief of staff, but fans still thought of him as Val Venis. By the time he changed his look and shaved his head, it was too late. Then there's the stuff after wrestling that hurt his reputation even more. He has been very outspoken politically, especially with libertarian ideas, conspiracy theories, and controversial opinions about the trans community. One of the biggest moments was in 2020 when AEW crowned Nyla Rose, a transgender woman, as women's champion. Val went on social media saying only a real woman should hold the belt. Wrestlers like Cody and Dustin Rhodes called him out for it. Fans got so fed up that someone bought the valvenis.com website and redirected it to the National Center for Transgender Equality. In 2024, he doubled down on those comments and told a trans fan in a photo with Cody Rhodes that they needed Jesus instead of affirming a mental disorder. By then, a lot of people had just written him off completely. On top of that, he has spread COVID vaccine misinformation and got banned from Twitter for posting a photo he claimed showed Hunter Biden and Malia Obama, which wasn't true. All of this has made fans and wrestlers want to distance themselves from him. Back in the day, though, he was in some of the most over-the-top storylines of the Attitude Era. His first big one was with Kai and Tai. The story was that he had an affair with the wife of their manager, Yamaguchi-san. They got revenge by tying him up backstage and trying to cut off his private parts with a sword. The next week, Val came out and said he was saved by a little shrinkage in John Wayne Bobbitt. Then came the feud with Goldust. Val made a film with Goldust's real-life wife, Terry Runnels. She became his on-screen girlfriend. Goldust returned to his old character, and they feuded for months. There was even a fake pregnancy storyline. And then there was Ken Shamrock. Val made a movie called Saving Ryan's Privates, starring Shamrock's storyline sister. That led to a feud where Val actually won the Intercontinental Championship. He only held it for about a month, but it's still one of his biggest career moments. Almost all of his feuds followed the same pattern. Val would seduce or sleep with someone close to his opponent, and that would start the fight. It was his thing. It worked for the time, but it was one note. And when WWE moved away from adult-themed characters, there wasn't much left for him to do. So why did wrestlers not like working with Val Venis? Some of it is personal. He could be arrogant, hard to get along with, and seemed to stop caring later in his career. Some of it is professional. His gimmick kept him from being taken seriously. And a lot of it is everything that's happened since. His political rants, his offensive comments, his conspiracy theories. All of it has left a bad taste for fans and wrestlers. Even with all the controversy and the limits of his character, Val Venis still won a good number of titles in his career. He wasn't just the guy with the towel and the catchphrase. On paper, he actually did pretty well for himself. In WWE, he won the Intercontinental Championship twice. Back in the late 90s, that was a big deal. The IC title was usually given to wrestlers the company saw as a step below the main event, but still important. For Val, it showed that fans liked him and the company trusted him. He also held the European Championship once. That belt didn't have the same prestige, but it still meant TV time and storylines. And he was a WWE Tag Team Champion once with Lance Storm. They were total opposites. Storm was serious and all about wrestling. Val was loud and all about his character. But somehow it worked. Before WWE, Sean Morley was already winning championships. In Puerto Rico's WWC, he won the television championship 4 times. He also held the Caribbean heavyweight title once and the WWC tag team titles 3 times with Glamour Boy Shane and Rex King. In Mexico, wrestling under the name Steel, he even became CMLL World Heavyweight Champion. That's their top belt and one of the most respected titles in the world. So it was a big accomplishment for a foreign wrestler. He also got recognition from Pro Wrestling Illustrated. In 1999, they ranked him number 25 in their list of the top 500 wrestlers in the world. In 2003, they put him at number 331 on their list of the 500 best singles wrestlers ever up to that point. Val stayed in WWE for about 10 years. That's impressive because a lot of characters from that era didn't last long once fans moved on. But Val kept finding ways to stay relevant. His Hello Ladies entrance was one of the most memorable of the time. The music, the slow towel drop, the wink to the camera. Fans knew exactly what was coming, and they loved it. People said his character was sexual but still TV-friendly and funny without being too over the top. Even when he lost matches, he could still get a big reaction the next week. His storylines also mixed in real-life names, which was a big thing in the Attitude Era. Adult film star Jenna Jameson appeared with him in vignettes. John Wayne Bobbitt showed up during the Choppy Choppy storyline. It was all about shock value and grabbing attention. But here's the thing. For as popular as Val was, his actual wrestling was usually seen as good, but not amazing. He was solid in the ring, but not at the same level as guys like Kurt Angle or Chris Benoit. Most of his success came from his charisma, his mic skills, and the wildness of his gimmick. That meant he had a ceiling. He was never going to be the guy headlining WrestleMania against Stone Cold or The Rock. That's where the debate about his legacy comes in. Some people think he should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. They say it's not just about in-ring ability. It's about entertainment, impact, and how much you help define an era. By that standard, Val fits. His name and gimmick are still remembered when people talk about the Attitude Era. Others say no way. They argue he was a mid-card act whose character only worked in a time when WWE was more adult-themed. They also point to the last few years, where his political rants, conspiracy theories, and offensive comments have made a lot of fans and wrestlers turn away from him. The Hall of Fame talk shows how much a wrestler's life after the ring can change how people see their career. If you only look at the 90s and early 2000s, Val was a solid performer who made people laugh, won a few titles, and stayed on TV for a long time. But if you add in everything since, the online fights, the controversial opinions, it's a different story. So when you look back at Val Venis, it's hard not to see him as one of the most Attitude Era characters ever created. He was over the top, ridiculous, and somehow charming all at once. He could make you laugh one week, shake your head the next, and still get you to pop for that "hello ladies" every time. In his prime, he fit right in with the chaos of late 90s WWE, and he left his mark with storylines that are still remembered today, for better or worse. But I think that's what makes talking about him so tricky. On one hand, you have the character, a total time capsule of wrestling's wildest era, someone who played his role perfectly and gave fans some unforgettable moments. On the other hand, you've got Sean Morley, the man behind the gimmick, whose in-ring work was decent but never spectacular, and whose real-life personality and post-wrestling comments have left a bad taste for a lot of people. It's strange how time changes things. Back then, Val Venis was just part of the fun. Now his legacy is tangled up in controversy and debate. Some fans will always remember him with a smile and a laugh, while others just can't get past what's happened since. And that's the thing about wrestling. We don't just remember the characters, we remember the people who played them and what they did long after the cameras stopped rolling. For me, Val Venis will always be a reminder of how unique that era was. He's proof that sometimes a character can be incredibly popular without ever being a main eventer. He's also proof that your actions outside the ring can have just as much impact on how you're remembered as what you did inside it. Whether you see him as an Attitude Era icon, a mid-card comedy act, or someone whose legacy has been tarnished, there's no denying he was a part of wrestling history you can't just erase. And maybe that's the most honest way to sum him up. A name you can't talk about the Attitude Era without mentioning, but one that's always going to spark mixed feelings. Now I want to hear from you. Should Val Venis be remembered as an Attitude Era icon, or does his real-life behavior cancel out the good? And here's a couple of bonus questions for the hardcore fans. Do you remember the short-lived Chief Morley phase when he was Eric Bischoff's chief of staff? And what about that 2000 match against Rikishi, where he came out in the towel but with a steel chest protector underneath? Genius or just weird booking? Drop your answers in the comments, hit that like button if you enjoyed this deep dive, and don't forget to subscribe for more wrestling history you won't hear anywhere else.